Established in 1741, York is one of 67 Pennsylvania counties committed to preserving the rule of law. Law, not the arbitrary will of one man, but law arising from the common will of the people, secured by checks and balances and divisions of authority, the essence of a free society. From its inception, the legal arm of government was intended to be close to citizens of the Commonwealth, which in the 19th century was to be a distance no greater than a one-day buggy ride. This, in part, was how county boundaries were established. The courthouse was to be the heart of the community. Roots of the American legal system are deeply entrenched in York and have been firmly secured since the 18th century by men like Irish-born York patriot James Smith, whose remains repose in the graveyard of the First Presbyterian Church. Renowned as a signer of the Declaration of Independence, Smith would be at home in a modern court where the essentials of freedom he sought to ensure are well in place. Symbols of justice abound. The York Liberty Bell, housed in the vestibule of St. John the Baptist Episcopal Church, pealed endlessly as jubilant citizens celebrated the adoption of the Constitution of the United States of America. Other, less palatable symbols serve as stark reminders of colonial justice. Imprisoned in 1768, one hapless counterfeiter, tried and found guilty by his peers, was sentenced to 1 hour in the pillory, where he was spat upon and subjected to insults by passers-by before having 39 lashes applied to his bare back as a jeering throng counted each crack of the whip. Punitive consequences are less severe today, and sentencing guidelines preclude such severe punishment. Even so, Yorkers continue to have a high regard for the law. A replica of the colonial courthouse stands as a reminder of simpler times when the citizens it served numbered fewer than 10,000. In 1840, as the population of the thriving agricultural community grew, a second courthouse featuring imposing Ionic columns replaced the first. A clock on the facade of the bell tower at the base of the cupola removed any excuse for tardy court appearances. A new citadel of justice was erected on the site of the second at the beginning of the 20th century. Designed by John A. Dempwolf, a prominent local architect, the elegant Italianate structure, flanked by columns from the old courthouse and 2 new domes, gave the otherwise unembellished skyline of York one reminiscent of Florence. But by the end of the century, the growing population of the county created demands for space for courthouse business, which exceeded renovation remedies. The majestic old courthouse was sadly obsolete in terms of the function for which it was created. With a population estimated to reach or exceed 1/2 in the course of the 21st century, new space was essential. A building reflecting the sense of respect for history which abides in the hearts of Yorkers was erected. The handsome multi-story building is in form and function thoroughly modern, but the new landmark is no longer referred to as the courthouse. It is now the York County Judicial Center. It houses the Court of Common Pleas, the local arm of the Pennsylvania Unified Judicial System, and other constitutionally authorized offices that support the judicial system. It is a place all about the law. But law isn't made here. Legislative bodies make laws. Law isn't proposed here. The executive branch of government sets policy. Law is questioned here. Matters of innocence and guilt, right and wrong, are brought here. The Judicial Center is a full-service legal center. Individuals or community delegates can bring questions of law here with a certain knowledge they are protected from and by the law without favor. It is here that essential legal records are preserved and maintained. This is, in fact, the place where the Pledge of Allegiance promise of a republic of liberty and justice for all is upheld. Many questions brought here are highly charged emotional issues, making security of paramount importance. No one must ever be kept away by fear or endangered upon entry. So all who come here are electronically screened by the watchful eyes of sheriff's deputies. Security cameras positioned throughout the building further aid the sheriff's office in the performance of what is undoubtedly their most important function, maintaining the safety and security of the building and its occupants. Legal battles can be fierce, but the weapons of choice are words. All others are prohibited. Beyond the security stations, a massive atrium, symbolically overruling the darkness of ignorance and injustice, towers as a visible reminder that though justice is blind, paradoxically, it thrives only in the full light of day. Surrounding the atrium, spiraling from one level to the next, are the elective offices authorized by the Pennsylvania Constitution, which separate authority and divide responsibility. They have come to be known as row offices, since they originally stood side by side in dimly lit hallways of old courthouses. Here also are clustered the various administrative divisions of the Court of Common Pleas, as well as courtrooms, hearing rooms, and the offices of clerks and court staff. The judges are elected to conduct trials, instruct juries in matters of law, rule on questions of law, impose sentences in criminal cases, and award damages in non-jury civil matters. Each office in the Judicial Center is strategically placed to efficiently deliver age-old legal tasks in vital new ways. Perhaps one of the oldest and best-known row officers is the sheriff, often thought of as the gunslinging lawman running herd on bad guys in the heyday of the wild American West, administering swift frontier justice. Such imagery is a far cry from the sophisticated modern-day Pennsylvania sheriff, elected to 4-year terms and vested with constitutional authority. Today, the sheriff is the chief peace officer of the county and assists both civil and criminal courts. The duties of the sheriff are described in archaic language first used hundreds of years ago in English common law courts. For example, the sheriff is to serve writs, injunctions, and warrants. Simply put, this means that when a judge hears a case, he may write an order. A judge's writ usually requires that something be done. A court injunction, on the other hand, generally stops something from being done. And a warrant is most often a court order authorizing a law enforcement officer to make an arrest. The court relies on the sheriff to deliver all such orders.
Any other bids?
Upset price is $25,500. I bid cost of $1,877.84.
It is also the responsibility of the sheriff to hold sales in civil matters such as real estate or personal property sales for creditors. Permits for firearms are obtained in the sheriff's office. One very modern service the sheriff provides is a central booking office that operates 24 hours a day via a video conferencing system, which allows persons accused and arrested for crimes to receive speedy hearings, seek bail, and enter pleas before a magisterial district justice. These proceedings are called arraignments. As criminal cases come to trial, the sheriff is responsible for the transportation of prisoners to and from court. At the Judicial Center, as prisoners await their turn in court, they are under the supervision of deputy sheriffs. The Judicial Center has some elevators set apart for the exclusive use of the Sheriff's Department to take prisoners from holding cells to courtrooms. One more safeguard for the protection of the public and court personnel. The Sheriff's Office also transports prisoners from jurisdictions outside York County. All of these functions require special training and extreme caution. Each deputy is selected with care and given appropriate instruction to perform the duties of the office.
The literal Latin translation is first scribe. President Truman said it is one of the most impressive political titles in America, then hastened to inquire, what the dickens is a prothonotary? It's another of the row offices constitutionally authorized for 4-year elective terms. The prothonotary has broad responsibilities in maintaining civil records of the court, which include unpaid debts, mortgage foreclosures, personal injury cases, liens, mental health issues, divorce, custody, protection from abuse orders, malpractice, and equity issues.
The earliest records of the office date from 1759 and provide a fascinating glimpse into life in York County over time. Among the other responsibilities of the Prothonotary's office is the processing of passport applications. During civil trials, a representative of the office administers oaths to witnesses and juries and is the custodian of exhibits during the trial.
I do.
And when we sing a song, oh, now sing to shining sea.
What is perhaps the most gratifying function of the office is the twice-yearly naturalization ceremony the Prothonotary arranges for new United States citizens. Pennsylvania law permits the consolidation of certain row offices. York County opted to combine the role of Register of Wills and Clerk of Orphans Court into one office. Unlike many court offices, much of the work of the Clerk of the Orphans Court centers around recording happy everyday life events, births, adoptions, and marriages, as well as natural, though sorrowful, events such as deaths. Petitions for incapacitated persons in need of guardians are also filed and kept here. These records held for posterity continuously attract history buffs and genealogists. Birth and death records from 1893 through 1906 are maintained by the Orphans Court Clerk's Office in the York County Archives. Birth and death records of individuals born after 1906 are kept on file with the Pennsylvania Department of Health Division of Vital Records. The Register of Wills maintains inventories of estates and collects inheritance taxes. One function of the Register of Wills is to prove the validity of a will, which is called probate. When a person has a will, the register appoints an executor to carry out the wishes of the deceased. If a person dies without a will, the register appoints a person known as an administrator to distribute the assets, pay taxes, and attend to legal obligations. Criminal records are kept in the row office known as the Clerk of Courts. These include the earliest handwritten criminal records to advanced 21st century electronic data banks.
This office evolved from early English courts and was the first official court office in colonial America. Also constitutionally authorized for elected four-year terms, the obligations of the office include issuance of bail bonds, distribution of restitution payments, and the collection of fines.
This clerk checks York County criminal history records for the court. And this is the office where petitions to remove criminal files from public records are made. Such requests are called expungements. A representative of the Clerk of Courts is present during criminal court proceedings to administer oaths and maintain exhibits for the court. An essential role of the Clerk of Courts office is to outline the events of a case for the court. All hearings, trials, motions, petitions, and court orders are kept in what is called the docket. A little-known county facility open to the public is the York County Archives. It's a state-of-the-art, climate-controlled repository for court-related and other county documents that are made available in original form or by docket or microfilm. All of the row offices and the Orphans Court depend on the skillful care of the archivist to preserve and maintain the thousands of records sent to the archives each year for safekeeping. The final row officer is the District Attorney, the chief law enforcement officer of the county. This office is dedicated to the vigorous enforcement of law. The District Attorney represents all the people by protecting the innocent and seeking punishment for criminals. Assistant DAs and detectives assist in the investigation of crimes and assist victims and witnesses of crime. The District Attorney acts impartially while giving legal guidance in criminal matters to police agencies and county departments. The County Crime Lab, run by this office, provides invaluable assistance to the court in gathering and examining evidence. When a crime investigation leads to a suspect, a written accusation called a bill of information is signed and filed by the District Attorney. In felony and misdemeanor cases, a preliminary hearing before a district magisterial court is held. The district magisterial justice decides if there is probable cause a crime has been committed. If so, the case goes before the Court of Common Pleas. If not, it is dismissed. Hearings before magistrates are the first step, the most local part of the judicial system. In effect, a neighborhood court. In York, there are 19 magisterial district courts scattered throughout the county. Magisterial justices are elected officials paid by the state. District justices sit without a jury and try third-degree misdemeanor and summary offenses, including criminal code violations, city, borough, or township ordinance violations, and fish, game, and dog law cases to decide innocence or guilt. These courts impose legal penalties which can be appealed to the Court of Common Pleas. Civil cases heard in district courts can be questions between landlords and tenants, breaches of contract, trespass actions, or questions of law within legally established financial limits. Magisterial courts reduce the volume of cases going to jury trials. In a society that takes full advantage of legal remedies, the number of cases coming before all courts is enormous.
The Public Defender's Office was established in 1968 by the Pennsylvania Constitutional Convention, which incorporated a 1963 landmark Supreme Court ruling on the Sixth Amendment in the case of Gideon versus Wainwright. It asserted anyone accused of a crime too poor to hire a lawyer is entitled to legal representation, a public defender paid by the county. In addition to providing criminal defenses, public defenders also represent individuals in closed mental health and contempt proceedings. The office serves juveniles and adults.
The broadest authority in the Judicial Center resides in the Court of Common Pleas, which is the trial division of the unified judicial system. Common Pleas judges are selected on ballots in county or first-class city general elections for 10-year terms. Together, the judges in each Court of Common Pleas judicial district select a president judge from their ranks for a rotating term. The president judge assigns the other judges to preside over various divisions of the court. There are 4 divisions of the court, which are criminal court, civil court, orphans court, and family court. The 2 largest caseloads are, by far, those before the criminal court and the family court.
Each court division requires the support of a variety of units of the court. One available to all is the law library.
All legal opinions are based on law, which serves as the foundation of orderly conduct in a free society. Every judicial district is required to provide a law library. The York County Judicial Center Library is funded annually from the county budget by state mandate. The library is open to the public and contains 30,000 reference volumes in addition to innumerable electronic records of law. Court budgets and related administrative responsibilities fall within the purview of the Court Administrator's Office. The office employs coordinators and staff for each court division. Courtrooms and hearing rooms for docketed cases are scheduled by the Court Administrator's Office. This is also where busy court reporters maintain offices to transcribe official court records. Keeping the human engine of this giant facility operating seamlessly requires artful management skills.
The criminal division of the court administers the probation office. The chief probation officer and the assistants are appointed by the president judge. Their duties require gathering sentencing information and overseeing the probation or parole of individuals serving county sentences. The probation office makes referrals to community agencies and monitors drug testing and DUI programs. A separate office of the court is maintained for juvenile justice. Known as the Juvenile Probation Office, it renders direct services to youthful offenders, makes referrals to county agencies, and implements family counseling. The goal is to create a wholesome environment for youth on probation. Youth likely to abscond or who have parole violations are closely supervised.
An innovative program of the department is an on-site school program based in a number of county and city school districts. Being close to the environment of the young people in their charge enhances insightful guidance.
The judge very clearly is struggling, and he has told us that. He is struggling with the decision.
A highly regarded office under the auspices of the courts is the Court-Appointed Special Advocate Program, funded by the county. A small staff, assisted by trained and dedicated volunteers assigned to one case at a time, are proving invaluable. The volunteers research backgrounds of abused and neglected children involved in dependency court proceedings and their families. They report family dynamics to the court and base their recommendations on first-hand knowledge of the child. Volunteers monitor the court's orders to ensure that mandated services are provided and used by the child and the family. Long-term individual oversight dedicated to the well-being of the child is effective.
Good morning. I'm Divorce Master Boffman. I take it this is the Roberts divorce.
Some family court matters are heard by the court-appointed lawyers, known as masters, who conduct non-jury hearings in cases of support, divorce, and child custody. Closed conciliation hearings are held, at which time masters work with parents to resolve child custody disputes.
Okay, let's get it started.
As a rule, arbitrators are appointed by the court as neutral third parties in civil hearings. Decisions in arbitrations can generally be appealed. However, there are cases in which parties on each side of a lawsuit may agree in advance of an arbitration hearing for the decision to be binding and not subject to appeal. The Domestic Relations Office locates absent parents, establishes paternity, and enforces court orders for medical and financial support in cases involving spouses or children.
This is a scheduled date and time for a hearing before the York County Register of Wills regarding the estate of L. Kane, date of death January 20th, 1995.
When a will is contested or an individual's competency is at issue, a hearing is held. The Register of Wills, a quasi-judicial officer, holds probate hearings in such cases, takes testimony, reviews evidence, and renders a decision to settle the dispute. If the dispute is appealed, it then goes before the Orphans Court Division of the Court of Common Pleas. Judges occupy their chambers for as many or more hours as they sit in court. They must consider the law and be thoroughly familiar with laws applicable to the case in point. They are required to instruct juries, consider evidence, and hear arguments of law. At times, the judge writes an opinion at the conclusion of a trial. The judge imposes sentences in criminal cases, awards damages in civil trials, and finds suitable remedies in cases of equity.
The Court of Common Pleas is a trial court where cases are heard by juries. Judicial Center courtrooms have the appearance of traditional courts of law, but are equipped with state-of-the-art communications.
The judge and advocates for each side are aided in their presentations by these devices. Decisions of the Court of Common Pleas are not the last resort. Decisions can be submitted to non-jury forums conducted by panels of judges known as appellate courts. Appeals are heard by the Commonwealth Court, the Superior Court, and ultimately the Supreme Court with sufficient cause. The benefit of a unified judicial system is obvious. Cases originate at the most local level of law, the Neighborhood Magisterial District Court, and as necessary proceed to the county level, the Court of Common Pleas, and finally, with cause, through the state courts to the highest court in the Commonwealth, the Supreme Court.
What better way to protect individuals from injustice than a system that offers numerous opportunities to be heard? Despite the fact the system moves slowly, it is undeniable that the progressive examination of questions of law and the division of authority attendant to it are the best way of eliminating unbridled abuses of power, protecting the rights of individuals, and guaranteeing the best alternative to injustice that has to date been found.